Our final inductee tonight, I think sometimes you just know. You just know. And you know that he or she, no matter what they do or what they put their mind to or what they decide to get involved with, you just know it's going to be a success. I remember calling a couple of high school games late in Chauncey Billups' career. I was amazed at his ability on the court. He was the best player on the court. Then, a young guy that could have gone absolutely anywhere he wanted to college decides to stay home and play at the University of Colorado. That for former Buffs was a big day, right? And especially former Buff basketball players. And so a renewed interest in that program. And they made the NCAA tournament for the first time in, I can't even remember how many years. And then you follow Chauncey's career because he's a Denver kid. And there aren't a lot of, it's a small state, there are not a lot of guys like that, like Roy Halladay, that make it to that level. So you follow his career in the NBA, and he bounces around. But I always knew, you would hear him talk after games. You would hear how he conducted himself. You would watch him play. I loved the way he played because he played the game the way that I thought the game should be played. He was selfless. He got the ball to the people that had to have the ball. It wasn't about him. And the thing, maybe the one trait that Chauncey had that I admire the most, and he had it at GW, but I said at that point he's the best player in the court, so why wouldn't he have that? He had it at CU, and he had it throughout his career in the NBA. We've all played sports at various levels. We've all played with talented athletes, and we've all played with guys who at the end of the game don't want to be at the bat in the bottom of the ninth with the bases loaded and their team's down 1. They don't want the ball thrown to them on 3rd and 12 with 15 seconds to go, down 3. They run away from the shot. And that's something that I never, ever saw Chauncey Billups do. Take a look.
The world got to know him as Mr. Big Shot when he led the Pistons to the 2004 NBA title and was named MVP of the Finals. His clutch shooting, defense, and floor leadership were at their best when the lights were brightest. These traits, though, were well known back here in his home state, where the king of Park Hill seemed to have always been a star. He was Colorado's Mr. Basketball 3 times and led GW High School to 2 state titles. He then did something that very few players had done before him. He stayed home. Arguably the best player that the state had ever produced took his talents to Boulder and the CU Buffaloes. The impact was immediate, and as a sophomore, his Buffs won their first NCAA tournament game in over 30 years.
Billups.
The NBA came calling.
The Boston Celtics.
Chauncey was the 3rd player taken in the '97 draft, but for the first time as a player, the road was truly rough. Not a fit in Boston, he was put on the NBA's merry-go-round, going from team to team. He seemed destined to be a draft bust. But in 2002, as a free agent, he signed with his 5th NBA team, the Detroit Pistons, and the fit was perfect. His legacy to NBA fans may be in his play, but here in Colorado, he's so much more. An icon who exceeded the hype, and whose reputation off the floor is every bit as good as his reputation on it. Tonight, we welcome Chauncey Billups into the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank God for blessing me with the talents and abilities that He blessed me with, giving me the opportunity to be influential in my community and other communities, and just as important, giving me the wisdom to not abuse that influence that He blessed me with. I want to thank my mother and father who are here, for setting a great. That's right. That's funny. My mom's the first one clapping when I say that. But, who taught me so much, how to work hard, what it means to work hard. They did every single thing that they could do possibly to give myself and my sister and my brother opportunity to succeed in life, and I'm forever grateful for that. I want to thank my wife, who I've been with since high school. We've been together 20 years. We got together when we was 5. That's all y'all know. It's contrary to what my birth certificate says, I'm still 25. But she supported me through everything, and as you know, I've been all over the place and drug her all over the place. And it's not easy, being with a professional athlete and the schedules that we have and them being alone. It's almost like them being a single mother sometimes. So I'm always grateful to her. And we have 3 daughters. Our oldest is 17, Sydney. She's in high school here. She's a junior. Our middle one, Sierra, is 14. And our baby is Sanaya. She's 8. And speaking of my daughters, Dave, my 14-year-old, she's going to Creek next year. And you just make sure to keep those football players away, all right? All right. But I'll just speak a little bit about just my pride and being from here and being a Colorado kid and how that happened and where that festered at. At a young age, I played football. It was my favorite sport. It's really still my favorite sport to watch. So that was my first love. By the way, I really only started playing basketball because I just liked hanging with my dad. He would take me to his little rec leagues, and I needed something to do when football season was not in. So I started playing basketball, fell in love with it right away. And you start in the PAL League, which I loved, playing football and basketball in the PAL League. But you start there, and then you continue to get better, and then you make it to maybe an AAU team, and I did that. And we went away one time. My first time going away, we went to Phoenix for this BCI tournament, and I'm playing with all local Denver kids, and we're playing against teams from everywhere. The first game we played, it was against a team from Chicago, and then the next game we played against a team from Houston, and then one of the other games we played against a team from New York. So I'm just listening before we get there, and this coach is saying, oh, we're going to be playing against all these kids, and this kid is ranked the best 6th grader, 7th grader. I'm like, who's ranking 7th graders? But all right, I'm looking forward to it because here, at that age, I kind of dominated, the guys around here, so I'm looking forward to the challenge. So we start playing these games, and we beat all of these teams with the exception of the New York team. We lost to them in the championship by 3. It's funny that I remember that because my wife is probably over there saying, I can't remember something she told me last week, but I remember this from middle school. But so after every single game, the coach, the opposing coach, and even between games, other coaches would come up to me and they would say, I know you play with that Denver team, but where are you really from? And I'm like, I'm from Denver, what do you mean? And I didn't really get it until we was kind of driving back home. And I took it really, I took it personal. That's where it kind of festered in me. I took it personal because my whole thing was, yeah, I am from Denver, and why can't I be great? And they thought, just because I'm from Denver, all I really do was ride horses and ski, which is cool, but I've never done it. I've never done it, but it's fine. But so from that tournament on, I always played with this unbelievable chip on my shoulder, and being from here and people looking at me saying, you know, yeah, he's good, but he's from Denver, and it was a handicap, you know, it was crazy. So I always played with that chip on my shoulder, knowing that I needed to be twice as good as the kid from Detroit or the kid from Los Angeles, or I needed to be just as 2 times as impressive because of where I was from, and we hadn't had a ton of pros and great players from here, so you know there was no real blueprint for me to follow. So I was kind of blazing my own trail in a lot of aspects. So I always played with that chip, always. I went to George Washington, and every single game I'm playing with that chip on my shoulder. I loved it. By the way, my favorite basketball years of my life were in high school. But I went, and then so I go from there, and I go to CU, and people know. I mean, nobody ever knew why I went to CU, and you know, to this day, people still ask me, and if they were here tonight, they would understand. But it was just that pride that I always had. So not only now, I'm playing with that chip on my shoulder of being from Colorado. Now I can slip that jersey on, and I got Colorado on my chest. So you can imagine the pride that I felt playing for CU, and being able to prove it every single night that I'm supposed to be here, and I can be great, and I can be like everybody else. So that was a big deal for me. That was a huge deal for me. And then I go on to the pros, and I do the same thing every single time. And that's where it started and where it ended for me. I mean, that's the reason why I became who I became, because nobody thought that I should, nobody thought that I would. And whatever, as an athlete, whatever motivation you can pull from, you pull from that. And I had this strange thing, was I was able to trick myself into believing everybody thought I couldn't play. So every single game I'm playing against everybody that thought I couldn't play, whether it was the Spurs or the Nuggets or whoever it is. I'm not playing against them. I'm playing for a different cause and a different purpose. And you know, oftentimes in high school, college, people would oftentimes say, you know, that kid is just playing at a different pace, or he's playing harder than everybody. But in all actuality, I was playing with a different purpose than everybody was, having George Washington or having Colorado across my chest, or even coming back here playing for the Denver Nuggets. So that's just kind of how, you know, my career has gone. That's kind of where the chip on my shoulder came. That's kind of what drove me to be great. And I'm happy and blessed that I was able to do that and do that here. Everybody that knows me knows how I feel about this city and the people that are from here, even the people that made it. You talk about Roy Halladay and watching him, you know, knowing that he and I graduated the same year. We had never met before, but when we talked, when we were inducted or chosen by the committee here, we talked, and it's funny, he was like, dang, I didn't even know you knew me, man. I'm like, yo, you just don't know. I'm like a Roy Halladay groupie, bro. Like, I'm, for real though, because I mean, I'm not a huge baseball guy, but I'm a huge Colorado guy. So he came from here, so I followed him. If you look at his career, and it kind of mirrors the career that I had, struggles early, making it to the top, and closing it out, doing a great job. So I've always been a big fan of his. Becky, so proud of her and what she's done in the game and what she's going to continue to do in the game, and just all the other honorees. Congratulations to everybody that made it here. Thank you to the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame and the committee for inducting me. Very, very grateful. Thank you. God bless.